and welcome everyone to the fifth Learnapalooza that we are now calling Learnapazoomas with the esteemed Mr. aka Doctor of Improv, Andrew McMasters, who will be joining us as your main facilitator today. Sorry, Andrew, you want to say hi to everybody?
Oh, hi everyone. I'll talk to you later. Keep going.
Okay. So like I said, this is a online session for Learnapalooza. We will be recording, and I'm referring to is Darren Nerland and myself, Aaron Peterschick. We're your co-hosts and the co-founders of Learnapalooza, the annual conference that these events grew out of. For those of you who don't already know, we see lots of returning familiar faces. So hi to everyone that has been to Learnapalooza, and if you haven't, it's an annual conference that we've done for about 5 years now, dedicated to innovation and disruption in the learning and development space. So this year we're still planning on moving forward with this event in September, and we hope that we'll get to see you there. So let's get our learn on. Before I introduce Andrew, just a couple of Zoom user tips. We do have gallery view as an option. If you want, use the 3 meatballs, like I said, to change your name, include your geographic location, preferred pronouns, company, your stage name, since this is improv, and totally understand if you would prefer not to be on video. There's also a couple of handy icons in the Zoom platform, the applause and the thumbs up, and since we're channeling our inner stage actors today, feel free to use the applause reaction copiously to let us know that we're all doing great. So why we do this, Darren is my chief disruptor. He likes to break things and build new things, and I just kind of tag along. The why at the center of Learnapalooza and the events that we put on around that is really about you, our community, and we just want to engage and build that community. We're a little bit flawed. We're not perfect, and we're even talking internally about, you know, what does connected people and engaged and enabled people look like, given sort of the strife that both COVID-19 and the current very strained, always strained, but even more strained race relations in the United States looks like. What does that mean for us? We're trying to figure it out, and we'll probably have some messages for you about that in the coming days. We're just human, and we recognize that the Learnapalooza community tends to be pretty white, frankly. It's reflective of the demographics of Seattle and the Puget Sound area to a large extent. It's one of the few places where I think there are a lot of women, which is a great thing, but you don't see a lot of our Black brothers and sisters and individuals who identify as persons of color or other traditionally marginalized populations. And we're taking a long, hard look at what it really means to be a convener of community and walk our talk. So just so you know, we're a work in progress there, and we welcome any and all input and insights. If you know L&D leaders who are themselves African-American, Black, people of color, and they could use an additional platform to amplify and elevate the work that they do, share their expertise, please send them our way, and we will be more proactively reaching out to those communities. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Andrew McMasters. Andrew is the lead training designer, facilitator, and original founder of Improv Mindset. I've been lucky to know Andrew for several years. I moved back to Seattle about 4 years ago and got to work with him on a couple of different occasions, and he's just kind of magic, and he's brought that magic as an actor, director, and entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience to founding Jet City Improv, which was, if you've ever been to that, it's up in the University District area. It's a nonprofit theater. It's been around for 25 years and specializes in improv. And Andrew also has had the chance to work with multiple Fortune 500 companies. He regularly consults with Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, some of the biggies in our backyard and elsewhere. So with that, I want to say thank you, Andrew, for bringing your experiential learning and self-discovery chops and curiosity to the Learnerpalooza community. And I welcome you to take it away.
Lovely. Thank you very much. I will probably share in order to go over those things. So I've got a couple slides. To be perfectly honest, we have a great manageable group. So I'd love to kind of go off the rails and play a little bit today. If everybody's okay with that. It'll be fun. Trust me, I'll take care of you. It'll be good. So let me go ahead and share my screens. The idea that I wanted to help everybody with today is really a little bit about how do we work with this online platforms and how do we continue to operate. So what I'm going to be doing is telling you a little bit about how I operate as well as sort of the ways that I'm doing this. Number one is you'll notice when I do PowerPoint or Keynote for myself, I don't actually start the program. The reason I don't start the program is when I start the program, that kicks me out of chat and then I can't read anything. So unless I had two screens set up and I want to stay connected to you as an audience, so as a result, what I'll do is I'll just keep this open and then I just keep clicking through my slides as I go through, just so that people can see what this is. Again, I love this because 34% of companies said that more than half their company's full-time employees will be working remotely by 2020. That number changed. So what we're going to talk about today is ways that you can use improv in order to sort of continue to engage an online audience, play with them a little bit. I do have a breakout that's sort of planned. I don't know if we'll get to it or not. We may not. Aaron, I might just cancel that whole dang thing. We'll see. Let's play and we'll figure out where we get to. So first off, in the chat, I'd love to know this. Have you ever attended a virtual event, a training of some sort, that you felt like did not engage you? That you were like, oh, I'm getting surrounding yeses, thank you. Is there any time that you've been there that you've been like, oh, this is the worst, like I am checking out? Sure have, good, okay. So clearly, this is something that we have all the time. And how do we start to, well, let me think about it. Okay, Jeanette, get back to me. How do we start to combat this? What do we do about this? This is what Candy Crush is for. Perfect, see? Something that you do to take your mind off of it. And the weirdness that we have with this virtual work. Let's face it, we're all sort of sitting in, our own basements or whatever we've figured out for ourselves, for our little studio. It's a window into our world. I was talking to a client the other day who said that he's doing some hiring, and he started realizing that he was judging people based on the stuff they had behind them. And to be perfectly honest, I've even heard people saying right now, the difficulty of what you are presenting, how you're presenting yourself. Even to the point of if you have pictures of your wedding behind you, well, is that reinforcing a gender stereotype of weddings? It's an unusual world. So it's a window into our world anytime that we have these sorts of visual events. Lack of physical connection, a lack of that clear communication that we have with each other, the unnerving amount of eye contact that it takes. Right? Because it's an unnatural amount of eye contact you need to do for any kind of this work. And of course, then that leads to the mental overload that you have. This is about me. You got my info, blah, blah, blah. I use theatrical techniques. I'm an improviser and an actor. And so I like to get people on their feet and actually make them play games. That's my info. Let's move on. So I want to give you a couple games, some exercises to help you to jumpstart engagement with groups. That's sort of my goal. So I've got a couple simple online tricks for how you can show up and be present too. So we're gonna flip through a lot of this stuff fairly quickly. I want to make sure I can keep you engaged on this. For this one, I am actually gonna take it off of screen share so that we can play. And here's the way this will work: is I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm gonna introduce myself 3 times. During those 3 times, is that John Cusack? Yes, it is. During those 3 times, I'm going to have you vote as to how present I am. How did I show up? Okay. And if you don't want to vote on screen, you don't want to have your camera on, no big deal. You can just put it in the chat, right? Like in other words, that was really crappy. That would be a 1. And then you go, that was okay. It'd be a 3. And then you're like, oh, that nailed it. 5, right? So let's go ahead and stop the share. And I will urge everyone to go to at the top where it says gallery view. Make sure you click on gallery view. That way you can see everybody's picture. If anybody wants to show up here, you can see all their pictures. And for those of you who want to have your camera on, we'll do the face-to-face judging, which is I will introduce myself, and if you like it, you go, yeah. And if you think it's not so good, then you go, eh. And then if you don't like it, you go, no, right? Okay. So that's how it works. You're going to do, yes, I like it. I'm not so sure. That was bad. Okay. So the first one is, how do I bring everything I have? How do I make myself as present as possible? And how do I introduce myself in a way that I think is bringing my entire presence to this? So number one. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew McMasters. I'm looking forward to being here today. This is a great chance for me to be able to share with you a couple of these tricks and tools to help to engage audiences when you're doing some online training. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay, that was number one. So tell me, how did, I got a couple here. All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, that's good. A couple thumbs up. Is anyone on the chat doing it? No? Okay, good. All right, so we're all good. There were the thumbs up. Wonderful. Let's do number two. The second one I'll do is I'm going to do the same intro, only this time I'm going to read my email while I do it. So hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you so much. I am definitely looking forward to training today and sharing with you a couple ideas on how you might be able to engage people when you're doing online trainings. Thanks. Okay, how'd I do? Oh, I definitely got some thumbs down on that one. Oh, I got some sideways. Okay, all right, good, good. Now let's do the third one, which is my favorite. Ready? I'm going to introduce myself while I look at my phone. Okay, so hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm really looking forward to this training today because I've got some ideas, some tools that I think will help to engage some of your groups while you're working on some online trainings. Thanks. How'd I do? Right? Okay, great. Okay. I think you get the idea, right? Let's go ahead and actually I had to look at my phone while introducing Andrew. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Thanks, Aaron, for that. What about while knitting? Sure. I mean, if you feel like you can still knit and look directly at the camera, then that'll be fine. It's a question of whether or not you can do that without looking. So let me share with you my screen again so we can go through these pieces. On this, for anyone, I'd love to know, how do you feel about doing any kind of virtual trainings? And you can put this in the chat for me. Are you terrified of this? Are you like, yeah, it's okay, all right? Or you're like completely comfortable? Oh, good, Bruce, you're completely comfortable. I could tell because you put court jester in your name. So that said to me, you were pretty darn comfortable. Good, a lot of comfortable, good. Tim, of course you're comfortable. Comfortable, good. Sheila, comfortable, great. Threes, okay, 3, 4 in there. Wonderful. What I want to talk about that very quickly is just because extrovert, look forward to it. Yes! I will skip over this stuff pretty quickly then. This is just about, again, I think some of you who have seen my information, my work with Andre Gollard, we talk about how the brain affects your ability to do what you need to do and how you show up. For this work, it is, I'll get to my slides here so I can show you these. The way the brain is built, the amygdala, fight or flight response, prefrontal cortex, which is your rational thinking. The brain is built on a series of scaffolding. There are twice as many projections from that fight or flight response to your rational thinking as there are from your rational thinking going back. So when you have that moment where you're like, I feel uncomfortable doing this, or it's too much eye contact, a lot of that is, of course, the amygdala hijacking your prefrontal cortex. What can you do? A deep breath. Deep breath is one of the first things you can do. Stimulates the vagus nerve, disconnects the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Oh, this is great. Aaron, you're getting nervous about having to do improv exercises later, and you were an improv group. It's okay. Breathe. Breathe. That takes care of it. The other one is external focus. For myself, I have an external focus, which is actually directly onto where my camera is. That helps to keep me calm. I can also think about where my hands are, holding something in my hand, anything that can help to keep me calm, breathing, moving slowly. That helps to keep things going. So this is one of the first keys. In improv, we've found actually that there are two sides of the prefrontal cortex. One of them actually has more blood flow, having more brain activity, and that is the one that is based on language centers and creativity. And the other side is based on seeing yourself. So it's the side of your brain which says, you look bad doing that, don't do that, that's the wrong thing to say. So we have been able to prove that in improv, you actually are helping your brain to get more creative and to make connections, as opposed to shutting down the side that has the self-view of yourself. One of the things I've been showing people lately is this, sedere, which is from the Latin root of desire. It is reframing that idea of something that might be scary, like Aaron having to do improv, right? The idea of this being, if I think about it as something that I'm excited about, and that obviously I'm passionate about doing it, then that changes how I am responding to the item. The reason I say here, the same portions of the brain, the hypothalamus, those light up. This is why if you go to a haunted house, you pay to get in to have someone chase you with a knife. But if you're in your house, you don't want someone chasing you with a knife. So it's that idea. So it is the same idea. It's a question of how you frame it, which is one of the keys. And that is, this is good, Tim, or I'm reframing how I'm impressing people to hell. Yeah, that's great. Impressing people to I'm helping people. That's great. I love it. How you change that, of how that sort of works. So online meetings. I think we've kind of seen this before, right? What does it look like? I actually had the opportunity to get my hair cut today, so I actually feel okay. I'm feeling all right. However, for the last 3 weeks, I've kind of looked a little bit like the dog in the first picture. One of the key things is thinking like a cinematographer, good lighting. I'll explain to you what my lighting is. I have this wonderful lamp that I purchased here. You can see this sucker. It's an Amazon special. It's an LED light. It sits directly behind my camera on my laptop. The reason for it, it does a light, even LED glow on my face, which makes that work perfectly. Behind me, I have another light which called the key light, which goes directly to the back of my head, showing a little bit of space between where my head is and the sheet that I've hung behind me. So that's giving depth to the picture. This is giving a bright front light. The camera angle as well, where the camera is that I'm looking into it. And I will describe this as something, if you can give me kind of thumbs up here on the screens again. Have you seen the movie Home Alone? Have people seen the movie Home Alone? You sort of know that? Got that one? For those of you who have seen the movie Home Alone, I'll describe how Home Alone works. This one is whenever you see the picture of Macaulay Culkin, right? They always show him from here, right? So he looks really small. And likewise, whenever you see the picture of Joe Pesci, you know, he's always So the camera angle is going to affect how people will respond to you. So making sure that your camera is directly in front of you, that's just one of the easier ways that you can do this. Background, I've got this here for my sort of area. And then the eye level, the eye line, as you're looking at the picture, my eyes should be at about a 3/4 inch line. There should be about 2 inches from above my head. There we go. I love that. And Darren, I'm sure we could get a key light that wouldn't shine too much off of your head. I think it will work. That's all right. Bye, Amy. Thanks for dropping in. Great. So how do we show up in that virtual world? The next thing is about how do we present ourselves? So I'm going to do a little demo again for you. I'll do the little demo like we did with the intros. And what I would love to do in the chat box is I'd like you to go, what do you think about me as I'm saying this? Or how does it make you feel when you watch me do this? So go ahead and actually just put that in the chat room for me. And I'm going to introduce myself. So hi, everybody. It's really wonderful to be here. I'm excited about the direction that the organization is going to go in. And I know these are some big changes, but I'm looking forward to how it will really help us as we move forward in the future. Thanks. Let's go. Good luck, everyone. Great. Oh, I'm cringing for you. Thank you. Meek, scared. Your shirt is covering your mouth. It's very true. Yep, I look like I'm ridiculous there. Awkward. I feel confused about what you're trying to communicate as a result of your body posture, right? You seem uncomfortable. Thank you. Voice is great. Low energy. Yep. And your pay is the main thing I see. Perfect. So What am I trying to demonstrate here on this one, of course, is trying to demonstrate how we show up. I might be saying, this is exciting. This is going to be a great new change. This is going to be wonderful. However, my words are not being followed up by the rest of that communication. I have left out the physicality. I've left out the vocal intensity. So as a result, if you look at what I'm saying, you're going to have a hard trouble getting the congruency of that message. If you read the Moravian study, these numbers, 55%, 38%, 7%, come into play when you do not believe what someone is saying. If I start to be skeptical of someone, these numbers come into play. If I'm not skeptical and I trust someone, there are different numbers. So just be aware of that if you read the full study. The important factor on it is that you need to have a full congruency of the message, your voice, your vocal variety, and how your body shows up. It's difficult in the virtual world. That's what we play with. Vocal variety. One of the things I tell people all the time is tell stories to little kids. It's the best way to practice vocal variety because you can go, and there was a monster and he, rah! And it's socially acceptable to do that. But it lets you practice how you might hit highs, lows, speed, slow, just play with that. Waiting half a minute, avoid those interruptions, dial down emotions. Anxiety is high, something that I think we're all finding through this crisis and all the more crises that we're hitting. Take a breath, restate what you said, assume positive intent, re-engage, and listen for that need, the emotional content. So let's play a little bit with that. Again, I've got a couple different things. General rules of thumb I use for any pieces online: visually engaging, more slides with a little bit more pictures, more visual image. Eliminate distractions. I've even turned my Fitbit on Do Not Disturb. That way it doesn't remind me to get up and walk around. Giving people notice and then giving them time to respond. So the example of that is if I said, Aaron, I'd love to call on you to respond to this in a minute. First, let me talk about what it is we're going to be going over and what those pieces are. So I've said Aaron's name. I'm giving her time to say the names 3 times. I love that. And giving them time to set up and then coming back to them. Very helpful. Also being able to say 2 to 3 names forward so that people know where they are in the queue. It helps people to feel comfortable. Again, we're trying to give people notice, set them up for success. Check in frequently. I like to have the chat open so that way I can actually respond to things on here and I can actually ask you questions. General rule of thumb, every 4 to 7 minutes, you should be engaging the audience with either a poll or something or a chat or something that you can do every 4 to 7 minutes. And listen more than you think you should. We're going to do a little bit of a listening exercise, and I think some people who've worked with me before, you know some of this. So Aaron, I am going to do the breakouts. We're going to do it anyway. Is that all right if I give you enough time? The key with it is, again, as I mentioned, setting everyone up for success. One of the lessons that I taught my improvisers all the time is that if I'm doing my job, what I'm doing is I'm working to say, how do I make the other people I'm on stage with look good? How do I make them successful? And in fact, I don't have to worry about myself because I know they're doing the same thing for me. So that external focus, number one, is it stops me from thinking, how am I doing? Do I look ridiculous? I don't need to worry about that. I'm worried about how do I serve someone? How do I help them? How do I give this to someone else? So that external focus helps out a lot. We're going to practice a little bit on that external focus, and I'm going to give you some background, but the main reason I'm doing it here today is actually for the emotional content, the EQ part of it. So we're going to dive into this. I'll explain how it works, and then Aaron's going to put us into some breakout rooms. For those of you who've worked with me before, and I think a couple of Sheila have, I think Tim, you've done this before. I think some people have done this before with me. We're going to go into breakouts. One person is going to get 60 seconds. They get to complain about anything they want to complain about. 60 seconds. They get to just go off, just rant, just whatever it is, right? Someone else there in your breakout room is going to be the timer. You'll say, okay, that time's up. Then the other participants there will listen to that rant, and at the end of it, they're going to put it in one sentence and they're going to feed it back. They're going to say, this is what I heard. And before they say that, they're going to say, oh, you sound frustrated, or you sound angry, or you sound annoyed, right? I want you to name the emotion, and then I want you to say, this is what I heard. Is that correct? Right? You should be able to get through, I think, 2 people complaining with feedback, hopefully, and then you'll come back. So trade off, trade on, however you want to do it. Once you're in your breakout rooms, you're on your own. 60 seconds of complaining, feedback with, this is the emotion I heard. This is what I heard. Is that correct? Yes or no? Great. Somebody else does it. Same thing again. Then we'll come back. Great. Aaron, when you're ready, let's dive everyone.
I totally believe that. Well, I'm glad that you could be in there. So they'll be coming back.
Good. Let's see if I missed anything. No? Okay.
Oh, sorry. Now it's doing the 1 minute mark for them. So. All right, and the Oscar goes to who?
Yeah.
Great. Welcome back, everybody. So I'd love to know. I'll ask this. Okay. I'd love to know, and you can put this in the chat or to tell me, what was it like when someone just reflected back the emotional state? Like when somebody just said, wow, you sound pissed. What was that like? How did it feel? And you can put that in the chat.
I feel so understood. I feel like I had to cut you a check.
Good. Anyone else you can tell me? Validating, thank you. I heard validate. Anybody else you can tell me over microphone, or you can, however, whatever's good for you. Great. Validated and acknowledged. Thank you, Bethany. Yeah, good.
I definitely felt validated, but I also didn't want to pass it on,
Got it. I love that. So I also want to know.
It was kind of cathartic for me. It's kind of like, I just got it off my chest. Thank you for listening, right? Yeah.
If that's all we do here today, that's enough. Great.
Now, can we have a couple more breakout rooms? I got more to go.
Right.
That's right.
And I'm tired of that.
We just do that all day.
We should check our fitness tracker, see if our blood pressure went down or not.
Totally.
Right. I love it.
Group therapy brought to you by.
Yeah.
So why do I make you do this? One of the things I think that happens is sometimes we're too busy, especially in this sort of world, thinking about what we need to do to move forward or where the problem is. And what we haven't done is we haven't actually sat back in this sort of crisis we're in and said, wow, let me reflect back what I'm hearing. Like, wow, it sounds like you're pissed. It sounds like this has been difficult for you. I'm hearing like this has been a really stressful time. And in those moments, what we're doing is we're actually working on how we're connecting with people on an EQ level, how we're connecting with them emotionally. So this is a part of that communication, which I think is most important. And anything that we can do to continue to connect emotionally over this visual medium is very important for getting our message across. As I said, anxiety is high. I think we all have a lot going on. So these sorts of moments are basically helping out to say, I hear you. Wow. All right. You got that. Thank you so much. Right? We're trying to give that little bit of calm so that then we can actually get to where we are. I will share my screens. We're going to work through this stuff very quickly. Here we are back on the screen. Let me get my chat back up so that I can see if people are responding to me. Wonderful. So it was our exercise that we had done. It's about letting people know that you heard them, right? I hear you. I'm acknowledging these pieces. Any of you who've worked with me before, you've seen this stuff, which is basically about 3 different methods of listening. It's not just about solving problems. It's about I am just here to hear you, right? That's my job as a sounding board. You need to tell me and I'm here. Another one is, I'm here because you've told me this because you want to leverage my expertise, or you want to work with me, or we want to partner. Great, we can solve this. Last one is, we're really talking because we just want to make some sort of emotional connection. So I've got a couple questions here. Let me go through these. We connect at the start of Zoom meetings from Bruce, asking each other how they're doing. Yeah, I've asked people before at the beginning of Zoom meetings, what's your percentage present that you are? And what's in your way? Because people will go, it's been a bad day, my dog's throwing up, whatever it is. So there are things that keep us from being present. It's great to acknowledge it. It just helps us to start out correctly. Darren's, how does this work in orgs? Go to those type of exercises. Maybe the beginning of team meetings. Yeah, getting people into an idea of how they're listening, and then understanding that listening has multiple levels to it, rather than just listening to say, let's get this off my chest and let's have this be done. So I love that. And then Aaron, sorry, you're saying didn't hold space for that in the meeting. Yeah, please. Darren.
So some of us work with clients, and so I'm curious as to how does that work with external clients as well that you have to work with on a daily basis. And I'm going to put another layer on top of that, where maybe they're a technical company where they're not listening to Brene Brown podcasts on vulnerability, right? So I'm curious as to maybe some pointers on that. Internally, I can totally see it. How do you do this on an external level where you're working with a client, on a weekly, daily basis?
Let me actually go forward on this, because I think this might answer it on my next piece. What I've taught for organizations before is using it in two sides, that when someone comes to you, they can go, can you just reflect back what you're hearing? Great. And then also for other people to say, oh, this is what I'm hearing. Did you just need to tell me that? Or do you want to work together to solve that? Or, wow, you're right, that sounds awful, thanks. So it's sort of helping to, in a lot of ways, bucket it in your head. One of the little bit of EQ, basically, again, touching about that emotional piece, blah, 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 blah. I can share this stuff with you later. This one is the one that I think is a little bit more helpful and speaks directly to what you were asking, Darren. The how, the what, the how, the why, and the because. That most people will listen for the what, the issue, and then they immediately go to the how, which is great. Let me tell you what needs to happen, or let me tell you what this is. As opposed to listening for the what, and then saying, oh, that makes sense, because I can tell you're motivated by these things, or these are values that you hold dear, which also makes sense because of your position, your role that you have in the organization, the work that you're doing. So let's talk to you about what a proposal might be. Speaking to people's values, speaking to their emotions, that helps to increase their engagement. So this is just one of those pieces that helps to get people in that mood and get them continuing to be engaged with what it is you're trying to do to move forward. Did I address that, Darren? Did I get that?
Yes. So,
yay.
Yep, you did.
Yeah, starting with the why by acknowledging, so start with the why by acknowledging the emotion early on. I usually will. I like to recap the what. This is what I'm hearing. So Aaron, sorry, going back over what you said. I usually like to say, so this is what I'm hearing is the issue, which totally makes sense based on what I know about you and what you believe in and what those pieces are, which also makes sense because of the role, the position that you have, the work that you do. So let's talk about what I think might be a possible solution. It's sort of an end around in that direction. I have a few minutes left, so we're going to run through some things very quickly. We talked about this, blah, blah, blah. External focus. This is another one that keeps you present. Who's listening? What do they want? What's in it for them? Really thinking about who are the people here and why do they want to be here and what are they doing? I love this quote. George Bernard Shaw, playwright, wrote this quote. Favorite part of this quote, it's been proven that George Bernard Shaw never said it. So that is, I think, the most important factor of this one. And the one thing here, this is my little piece that I'm going to do, and then we're going to talk about a little debrief. I'm going to show you one more interactive tool before we're done, is to have something that keeps you happy. As I said, tension is high. Times are difficult. It takes a lot of structure and a lot of focus to be constantly looking at this camera. So what can you do in order to stay happy, keep yourself positive? One of my things is dinosaur socks. If I wear them, no one knows I have them on. So they're just something to make me happy. Before I start the workshop, I go, I got dinosaur socks on. Cool, right? Bruce, mismatched socks, great. I have my, actually I have on these, they are the lucky socks. So I've got little lucky things on there with a little lucky. So whatever it is, again, that keeps you happy. During another workshop I did, someone was like, I'm not wearing pants. Great. Because they can't tell. It doesn't matter. If it makes you happy, then you show up on the screen and you show up with a presence that's saying, I have a secret. So that is one of my pieces. So where are we? Increasing that physical setup, a recap, presentational aspects, listening skills, external focus, serving others. What I would love to do on this is one more sort of interactive tool. I'd love for everybody to go to annotate. You should see it up at the top where I'm doing share screen. Click on annotate. And right next to it, underneath that, you should have a stamp, or you can draw. And what I'd love for you to do is to say, of these things that we kind of covered here today, go ahead and go, you know what? I like this one. So you can choose, you know what? I think that this was important for me. So go ahead. Oh, there we go. Physical setup, wonderful. Listening skills. So go ahead and annotate and put one next to it that you're like, I totally want to remember that. That's great. There we go. The reason I love to show these tools like this, the ability for people to actually type on here and to say, you can actually type in here. People can, you can fill out blocks inside each one and people can put in what their input is. This is just another tool to help engage people, especially introverts. People who may not want to speak up while you're on these sorts of events. However, this is an easy way for them to still engage with your content, engage with the learning, and stay present and active and keep working. So just another piece. By the way, this picture, I see all the, the picture is a farm in California. There is one in Washington now, where you pay to have a goat come to your meeting. It's $50 for a goat, and it's $100 for a llama. So you can have a llama come to your Zoom meeting, or you can have a goat come to your Zoom meeting. And it's just another way to sort of like throw something out there, something fun that people can enjoy seeing a farm animal while you're there. So I think that's where we are today. I need to change my mouse. There we go. The big heart on that. Yay! I'm going to actually go back to this because I want to save this because that picture makes me happy. So I just saved that for myself. And then I'll clear everything and let's go back to where we are. I would love to know. So thanks, everyone. Questions. What questions do you have? Is there anything else that I can cover? Is there something that you're like, that's brilliant and I want to remember it? What do we go from here? So any questions or anything, you can put them in the chat or you can come off of mic and tell me, and let's answer any questions.
Andrew, earlier you were sharing kind of about, you know, the ways that we can be present, looking, voices, all that. Do you get much pushback, or what's your take on that in terms of like U.S. dominant culture versus other cultures, or working in mixed cultures, you know, where different affect and how you show your voice and body and eyes can convey meaning?
They certainly do. And for a lot of that, anytime I've had to do anything that is a lot more mixed cultures, I have given the option of, it is okay for you not to be on camera. It's fine if you don't wish to. So allowing people to sort of choose for themselves how they wish to show up. For myself, there's a couple of different pieces that I've done. I will usually, when I'm speaking, I look at the camera. When I'm listening, I will look down at the picture. When I'm speaking, I look at the camera. When I'm listening, I look down on the picture. That's just for me because I think that looks most present for me where I am. Depending upon different cultures, it will change as far as the eye contact. Unfortunately, with this sort of Zoom, this is made, any sort of visual piece, WebEx, Zoom, BlueJeans, Visibo, any of them, they are made basically for this visual contact. So unfortunately, we don't look as alive if we don't have this intense visual contact. The PDF of the slides, sure, I can do that and get that stuff to you. That'd be great.
Also, did you see the question about what do you do with wavering bandwidth stability? I know that's been an issue at my company. Sounds like it's true of other folks.
It certainly is, and this is where, unfortunately, you will have to probably turn cameras off, because the minute that we do have cameras off, that takes a number of bandwidth. One of the large companies that I've been working with actually doesn't have the bandwidth to have their cameras on because everything has to go through secure servers. So as a result, they will have large meetings, 30, 40 people, and everyone has to be off camera. So when it comes to that, this is where we will rely on annotation, being able to circle something on the screen, being able to put things in chat, being able to raise hands. If you also go into clicking where participants are, if you click on participants down below and it has the list of participants, you also have some pieces there. Yes, no, go slower, go faster. So you have to use all of those tools, especially if you can't have any of the visual. Any great audio only improv exercises you've had success with? Yes, a little bit of audio and a little bit of visual. I will look for, here we go. This is one of the ones that I have been playing with some people recently, and it's go ahead and find a photo of yourself. And then what you'll do is you'll hold the photo up in front of the camera, and then the other people tell the story about that event, even though they were never there. So for this, you're looking at me at about the age of 16, and look at that hair. Oh yeah. So that's, and,
Oh my God, John
it's,
Cusack was in that photo.
I told you. So it's a fun way to be able to say, let's show one picture, or I've seen people do it on a slide, and then people will go, oh, I remember that day. That's when the three of us were going to get ice cream. And the other people say, yes, and we were doing this, yes, and we practice the accepting and building yes and skill based off of one image. I think that works great in audio only. Any other questions?
I love the idea of like preloading slides with photos, even if they aren't your own, and then just, you know, having that as an activity. So I'm going to steal that.
Yay, do it. Wonderful. I think we're about 5 minutes before the hour. I'm going to hand over for any wrap up. If there's any other questions or anything, we'll send the slides out, which has my information on it. If you need any ideas and some games, I have little tiny short things here. Amy is saying we're planning a retreat replacement for a group that only sees each other. It's only every year. So any great group icebreakers for 30, 60 minutes max. Let me shoot you a couple of things about that. One of the biggest ones that I'm seeing people do these days is literally the scavenger hunt, where they say, I want you to go find something that's fuzzy. And then everyone has to go and find something that's fuzzy and show it to you. It tends to be ridiculous and fun. And usually you need to have about 4 or 5 different amorphous topics that's what I'm looking for. Great. Aaron, Darren, I'm handing it back over.
Well, thanks again, Andrew. We really appreciate everything that you've done, and just want to remind everybody that we are continuing to do these into July. We've got another one coming up later in June. It's our friend Teresa Franco-Macaro talking about storytelling. And I love the title of this, COVID-19 and Other Horror Stories, How to Use Creativity and Storytelling to Flip the Script and Craft a Compelling Story. We've actually got some questions about this topic coming in from the Learnerpalooza community. So if this is on your mind, we hope that you'll come join us on June 18th.